So the first turn continues into the second deck. Green opened up a siege with a versatile action card. But then one of the neutral cards, Fund Expeditions, came up, and the chairman, the black player, made the choice, he doesn't have to do this, to fund an expedition to China. And he threw a buck in, purple threw a buck in, red threw 2 bucks in, yellow, with the leader of the church, had the option to bless things. He could have thrown a lot of money in. He decided against blessing and against throwing money in. He's going to let black, who's his nearest competitor, maybe lose a buck or maybe gain a bunch. We'll see how that works out. And then this goes here. I couldn't find a rule on this. I'm assuming it's just a discard pile that I'm just going to keep track of. I need space down here for these anyway. There was something about putting a card at the bottom. It's at the beginning of the game to make sure you can't stack the deck with the color you want. Let's see what the next one is. Next one's going to be, okay, and again, here's my issue with the blue. I used a Mobilize Forces card instead of the cheaper Versatile Action. Because this is an attack, it goes in the assembly pile again. I'll be continuing to turn these up. I just don't want to do it in that much detail. So some interesting options came up as we were going. For one thing, purple, and I don't know if I had noted this, nah, I hadn't in the last one, played Serve the Church. They actually played 2 of them. Got a couple faith counters, got themselves the little, it's not really a crozier, it looks more like a scepter, but whatever, that's the signifier of the church authority. It looks very royal to me, but anyway, they played that. I should be tipping people. I'm never going to remember to flip, tip, whatever I'm doing. The game is so fast-paced that it's really tough, and I've got to remember these things because this is the only way, one of those two, to indicate, hey, I've used this guy. Red has not gone. Yellow I've got exhausted, but I don't believe he is. I think that's from my definition saying how the game, explanation of the game. Okay, I think I'm caught up, except maybe this guy should be lying down. I'm not sure if that's necessary, absolutely. I can always look at the cards. We'll see if I can handle this the way it's supposed to be done. But yeah, then the other person who did something, red did, I don't know what it's called, rally support. Now purple's 2 cards they threw into the wages thing. More likelihood they're going to get them back soon that way. They don't terribly want to pay wages to their troops, but it means everybody has to, and they have less troops than other people, so they're not really upset about that idea. Okay, so red played the gather support counter, got a couple of vote markers. More importantly, they got this thing with it. What that thing gave them was when the next expedition came up, they had the choice, and they chose to do one to the Spice Islands. At the same time, the Chinese expedition moved forward a space. Just about, actually everybody threw money in, but after the church decided to bless it, or after they put 5 gold in, which indicated to everyone that they were likely to bless it, the next 2 players put the maximum in as well, thereby reducing the advantage for doing so, and made the purple player almost consider not doing it, but they went ahead with it. And the next one's going to be a levy taxes. Black will get a buck, because they only own 1 area. And I'll just continue on this way. You can see how fast, though, it moves. It's like, draw a card, what are you doing? Draw a card, what are you doing? There's no real opportunity for a lot of contemplation on most of these actions. I like that in a Euro-style game, and I think these are Euro-style elements that have been added to this game. I think they've helped it tremendously. Which is odd for me, because usually I'm not in favor of such attributes, of such mechanisms in a game. Anyway, let's keep going. Well, briefly, we're at the tail end of the second, and now we're moving into the third deck. of actions. And we see 8 taxation cards, 9 wages cards, only 3 towards the assembly. We're getting close to triggering off one of these special events. And to tell you the truth, I think in the base game, in the old version of it, these things always happened. There was always taxation and wages at the end of the turn. There was always an assembly. You could count on them. I really like how this combines nicely and how they're triggered events instead. The only thing that worries me about it is keeping the count in mind. You know, once you get above a certain number of cards, it's hard to just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can't see a clear difference in those. And there's not a good way of representing that. I guess I could be more careful in my stacking. But it's just tough. Anyway, on to the third deck. And I think it's pretty likely that we'll see at least one, maybe both of these fire off. Okay, so come up a couple more gather support or whatever were played. Red picked first, then black got one. Some more cards in the assembly deck, and nothing actually changed position. But then immobilized forces. Ooh, that's painful. That's going to be an attack. It's going to go into the assembly deck. I'll flip that over. But I wanted to show you a battle. They're going to do a siege. They're going to do an assault on the city of Gedz, which is a cheap city. It's got a strength of 100, so it's going to have 1 card to pick. The black player has a strength of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600, so he's got 6 cards. He gets to look at these and see what he wants. He's got a number of victory cards, which looks like sufficient to win him the battle against 1 card, right? Maybe it's a draw more or something. Deal 100 casualties. You know, he's got to discard 2 cards. He doesn't want to deal casualties. What about the draw of fate? That sounds like it's going to be a risk. I'm going to put these here. And those are going to be my discard. Now, if I revealed this, I would get a random card. But as far as I can see, this should win. Let's see what the... and some player, I don't remember, probably the guy next to you, would be handling this choice as well. Deal 100 casualties, although he probably should not be allowed to discard cards for the neutral cities. Okay, so what do we have? We have 3 victories and deal 100 casualties. 100 casualties are charged on this dude. And since he has like 1, 2, 3, 400 troops, he doesn't have a problem here. He's got the victories and won the battle, which means he has just captured himself a city. He's done it without causing any damage, which is really cool. And let's see what else happens. I'm not sure what happens to those cards afterwards. So, see, earlier we had a shuffle the fate deck card, which would have caused a reshuffle here. But in this case, I'm just worried that's a very small deck. And I honestly do not know where the discards go when it's done. I'll look that up later because dealing with these rules is almost impossible compared to some others. Let's try the index. Let's see if that helps me. Are fate cards in the index? Yes. 4 and 5. Maybe it'll tell us what we do with them. One could hope. Okay, well, we got fate. They're used to resolve battles. See drawing fate cards for 5 on how to use them. Okay. They're discarded face down on the bottom of the fate deck. Well, there's no ordering to what we just did. I don't like the idea of this, but it means I'm going to have to shuffle them up. Now, do events get discarded the same way? That's not explained anywhere. Painful. Alright. Okay, so a couple actions passed. Let's see what happens. Well, we saw black had already taken their town. After them, I think I have the order right, yellow and red. Actually, I think it was the other way around. Red then yellow. Similarly, assaulted their town. And again, with 6 cards against 1, it's pretty easy to take it without any losses to either, well, without any losses to the cities. And in the case of the cities drew victory cards, so it wasn't any losses to the nobles either. Kind of better position than black got. Okay, but blue played an assembly card, and with all those straight attack cards on the mobilized forces, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We're at 12 cards. That means the assembly is going to be held. So, first thing that happened in the assembly was everybody got a vote plus 1 vote per city that they currently control. Our low voter right now is green, and green's sitting on a private motion. Now, they're going to immediately propose that we postpone the assembly. That's the private motion they want, because they don't have any votes. It seems silly to them to run this thing when they can't even really play. Now, let's look at what other people are liable to do. Is anybody going to vote against this particularly? Do they have anything they desire? Bail out the treasury. You can buy influence chips for $10 each. I don't think anybody particularly cares about that happening. And then the ambassador to the Holy Lands immediately receive an ambassador fee of $10. Wow, that's pretty big. You'll miss the next assembly, and your nobles attack at minus 100. Now that's interesting. And we've got one person who's sitting on a pile of money. They might want it. On the other hand, they might not, because it does have its penalty. Red is far away. My guess here is that red vaguely is interested in this. Okay. Well, how do they determine voting? Well, voting's entirely there's no control of the voting. So it's not like a junta game where you can force one player to vote, where the voting's ordered. And it's not like some other games where you can force a player to vote in particular order. So that Republic of Rome comes to mind there. So that you can, as the chairman, come in with the final vote. Or make sure you go first so you don't have to spend your votes for the good of everyone. Well, in this case, everybody has to pick secretly. And I'm going to do that kind of in my head. Does green really care about this private motion? Damned if I know. They do. They're going to put forward, and this is all happening simultaneously, their vote for that. Everyone else, I don't think anybody gives a damn about it at all. Red may care. I'm going to say that they do care, and they put 1 vote in as well. Nobody else did. These votes are expended. They're permanently gone. Well, they go back in the pool. Red now gets to break the tie. The assembly is going to happen. What's the order for the other votes? Well, that's up to the chairman. And he'll do them in the order given. Bail out the treasury. Does anybody really want this? Not want it? Does anybody feel like they're out of... I don't think anybody wants to put any votes on it. The chairman is going to vote that so that it passes. I don't know quite where to put this. I guess I'll put it down here. That's now a passed law. Nobody wanted to spend votes on it, but he was willing to wrap in on it. So now, at the start of assemblies, people can buy influence, as long as that exists. Now the ambassadorship, now this was the reason that he was willing to go. He wants this extra cash, and he's willing to deal being out of the area to put a bid for it. What's he going to bid? That seems a high bid for money. Yeah, he's going to put 4 on it. Who else might be interested? I'm going to say only purple. And purple is not even going to bid on it. So red got this for 4 votes. They assigned it to themselves. They could have gotten it for free, but this is what they wanted. And you would essentially have put a fist down, and then when you reveal, you declare who you're voting for. So now they are the ambassador to the Holy Lands. They get $10, which is, to me, a big amount, and that's why Red did this. They missed the next assembly, though. And they have certain disadvantages on them. But that's okay. I'm going to put this on top of him because it has so much effect. Normally I would just tuck them in somewhere. Okay, is that the end of the assembly? Not quite. We have to reveal the next assembly's agenda. Now you'll notice one thing. He's way behind on votes. He wouldn't have enough to hold the chairmanship, but that doesn't matter. It's only when somebody else gets more votes that it's going to change. Okay, so let's see what our next assembly is. Mercenary tax. The cost for mercenaries is increased during wages. Lord Commander. This is going to be an office. The holder gets an extra fate card in battle. That's pretty cool. And then the Admiral. The holder can move directly from overseas city to another as if the two were adjacent. Well, that's kind of cool for dealing with these off-board locations. Now, okay. Now, I don't think anything happens with expeditions on this. I remember expeditions were dealt with within the assembly before in the original game, so I'm trying to make sure that they are not. Yeah, it looks like they're only held when that random card comes up. That's cool. Okay. And what the heck? I'm near the end here. Oh. All these cards get returned. That's the first thing. And I'll hand them out and then come in and finish. But the next card is going to be a serve the church for blue. That's gonna give them control of the church, no? Or do they get one or two? No, they only get one. So they will not become head of the faith. But they'll have some control over which pile they want to fire. Okay, so now, I don't remember where blue put it, but it doesn't really matter. They think both of these will be triggered off. Actually, they're surprised that they weren't triggered off already. So now what happens? We're in the upkeep phase at this point. Nobody's won. That's pretty clear. Gain influence. You get an influence for each city you control. Well, a few people control cities. Red's got one. Yellow and black each have one. And immediately I'm beginning to think this is going to be a shorter game than I had expected. It doesn't require a lot of combat as it stands. I'm not absolutely certain I like the victory conditions either with the pool or even with this crown ability that's going to come into play, because 16 influence doesn't strike me as terribly important either. What I'd like the crown to do, I think, is trigger sort of the sudden death type of situation, or the total victory where you need half the cities in order to win. It gives you those extra troops, but then removes influence completely. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play it as written, but I'm beginning to think that this crown ability is no better than the original victory points towards settling my mind as to what victory points are going to be like. It does make for a quicker game, though, I'm sure. Revolts. There's a chance cities under a baron control revolt. It does not have to be one of the nobles present. One at a time. Okay, nobody owns a city without a noble, so this is not an issue. But if you had cities without nobles in them, they'd have to be checked with a fate card for revolts. See if movement arrivals would happen now. Nobles are refreshed. We're going to flip all the nobles up. And this is kind of the dance of the game, which is worse, I'm sure, in solitaire than it would be in you know, you only have up to 4 of these when you're playing. Those should have never have been. Return nobles to the board. Okay. At this point, there's some people who have troops that are near the strongholds. And I think I'd like to bring those troops into play. So red, for example, well, they only have 50. That's a pretty puny army. I could, of course, reinforce this guy who doesn't pay wages. 1, 2, 3, 400. It's got to be under 450. He'd rather not. Who else has troops assigned there? Black has 100. I might as well assign those to his leader, who doesn't have to pay. And that's the circle leader, will be here. You know, it doesn't hurt to do that, right? And now green also has some troops that are unassigned. Now he's got a couple hundred with that. He's got another 100 here. I think I want to move that 100. 100 doesn't sound like a small amount. I'll give him the star leader up here. Not necessarily what I want, but this way I can reinforce forces and then pull the leader off the map or whatever. What else do we have? Well, that's it for the turn. Now we start over again. As with most games, right? Just going in a circle. To the planning phase, where you're going to be filling up these spaces as to what you want to do each turn. Alright. Well, I'll send this one up. It got a little longer than I expected, but I think it gives a good view of a whole turn.